Hi, I'm Danger Dan Jers, the host and GM of the D&D Real Play podcast, D&D Dark. Join us on Wednesdays for an absurd, over-the-top comedy horror adventure, starring some of history's most infamous monsters.
I'm Ben Magnet. I play Mary Frankenstein, our barbarian.
I am Daniel Cruz. I am playing Imhotep the Mummy, our cleric.
I'm Jordan, and I play Larry Talbot, a lycanthropic warlock.
I am Grayson, playing Jet Griffin, the Invisible Man, the party's rogue.
I am Aaron. I play the Phantom of the Opera, our bard.
For more information, go to dndarkpodcast.com and listen to us anywhere you find podcasts.
Hey everybody, this is Davis over at the CFG, and I would like to welcome you to another episode of Pop Culture Gems. This is a series where we talk to amazing creators, artists, cosplayers, voice actors, and so much more. If you like the interviews we do with these terrific guests, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel, the CFG channel, or go to our main website, confreaksandgeeks.com, or even listen to it on any podcast services out there. Today, I am talking to an OG in the cosplay game. She has been cosplaying for about 20 years, and during that time, she has made some memorable cosplays like Levy from Attack on Titans, Vanellope Von Schweetz from Wreck-It Ralph, Bridget from Guilty Gear, Bakugo from My Hero Academia, and a whole lot more. I would like to welcome Steff Von Schweetz to the show. How are you doing, Steff?
I'm doing pretty well. Can't complain. How about you?
I am doing good. You know, it's like today I completely overslept, and I'm like, I woke up, I kind of freaked out.
Hey, at least you're well rested, if nothing else.
That is very true. I've been kind of been backed up on sleep this week. So but I felt good. I felt good today though.
Good,
so
good. Glad to hear it.
Yes, that's good. How is it over in your neck? You're in Vegas, right?
Yes, I am. It is cold.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. For some reason, I didn't even think it really got cold over there.
Yeah, most people forget how deserts work. They have extremes, so extreme highs and extreme lows. So usually Vegas doesn't get snow, but it kind of just depends where you are. So if you're closer to the mountains, sometimes you'll get some snow, but we definitely get some very cold weather here. Not like Detroit or anything like that crazy. Mm-hmm. But right now our highs have been in the 40s.
Oh, wow.
And then we had some lows that go below freezing point. So we definitely get some colder weather here.
Wow. I am totally surprised. That's weird to even think about, because it's like, but
yeah,
so
the weather is actually controlled by water. So that's why deserts have such extreme temperatures, because there's no water around to kind of
balance it out.
The temperature. Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. So, and I know it's getting less and less water over there on that side. So I guess
we could use all the help we can get.
well, anyway, thank you so much for stopping by, Steff. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, so let's get this party started. So we'll just ask, start the questions here. So like, when did you start cosplaying?
So, if we're talking about when I first started cosplaying, knowing the term cosplay, that would have been in 2003. But I've been dressing up for like Halloween. My mom was really into costumes for Halloween and like school spirit days and all, like any opportunity to dress up, my mom was very into. So that just kind of passed on to me. So she'd always like make my outfits for all the school events and for Halloween and stuff. So it's kind of been just ingrained in me from a very young age.
Did your mom always did she love like making costumes just as much as you did, or?
So she just always loved Halloween. It was her favorite holiday, just being able to like dress up and completely become a different character. She knew how to sew like basics and stuff, so she would just get really crafty. I'd call her an artist more than like a seamstress or something, because she just loved to create. like any kind of crafting hobby. She was into like painting. She would do some woodworking. She did a lot of like really cool arts and crafts type stuff.
Oh, okay. So what introduced you into cosplay? That, like you said, you kind of, once you've kind of figured out what cosplay was in '03, like what introduced you into that world itself?
So I was in high school, and a friend of mine went to a public school. I was at a very strict Christian school at the time, so we didn't have any like clubs or anything like that with anime or anything, but she did over at her public school. And she asked me if I would be going to Anime Expo that year, because her anime club was planning like this whole thing. And I had no idea what she was talking about. So I went ahead and Googled what Anime Expo was, and it took me to the Wikipedia page. And it was all very bare bones, but then it had pictures and it used the word cosplay. And so like it was one of the highlighted links. So I click on the cosplay link, and it was just like a moment where I was like, this is it. This is the thing I had to do. Like I had never been to a convention. I had never had any experience with that. But I was like, Mom, we have to make the thing so we can go to the thing. And she was like, okay, that's cool.
She was on board. She was on board on it. You even need to explain yourself. You just like, she was like, let's do it.
Yeah,
That's
she was
awesome.
just like, okay, cool. Like my mom wasn't like super into anime by any means. She was actually really into DC comics, so she loved Batman and all that. She liked things like Star Trek growing up. So she was never opposed to me being into anime or anything weird or video games like that. And it's kind of funny because we got involved in Anime Expo '03 was my first one. And through learning about more Japanese culture, going to the convention, she found out what J-Rock was. And that was very, very popular back in the early 2000s. And she actually fell in love with J-Rock a lot more than the standard like anime or video game costumes. So she would actually dress up as like members from like Malice Miser, Duran Gray, like all the old school like J-Rockers. I was really into Lolita fashion then too. So it was just like a whole thing that I was just exposed to all at once, and I was so excited.
Your mom at that, I mean, your mom sounds really like really open-minded. That's really cool to hear that she was supportive, like really supportive like that.
Yeah, she was super supportive when I was younger. Unfortunately, we've had some falling out over the years, but I definitely wouldn't be where I am now if it wasn't for my mom being so open to those things. Like she dressed up with me to Anime Expo that 2003 year. We both cosplayed from a series called Dot Hack Sign,
yes.
which was on Toonami at the time. And so she was right there with me in costume. And I was like, cool.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool thing for like that not a lot of people could truly say. That's really awesome. It's actually kind of awesome too that you said that your first convention was Anime Expo. Even though Anime Expo wasn't as large as what it is today, it's still a fairly sized con for what it was, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I had no perspective of what anything was back then. Like I'm sure like San Diego Comic-Con was significantly bigger because anime at the time was still very stigmatized, not cool at all. We really didn't have access like we have now. Even finding like basic, I guess, VHS back then and DVDs was really difficult. You had to like torrent everything or watch like one episode in 3 different YouTube videos. It was rough.
I like to call that age the dark age because that was like it was insane. Like I remember like if you wanted to buy anime was hella expensive. It was ridiculously expensive.
And you got like 2 episodes on each like VHS or DVD, and you're just like, how many episodes are in this show? Forget it.
Oh my God. Yeah, I know. And then you can't even like, you know how you have options of dub or sub then
you don't have options.
Yeah, it was like you had to get the dub tapes or you got to get the sub tapes, and the sub tapes were always a little bit more expensive.
Yep.
Oh my god! I remember like my first set that I bought myself was a Trigun on VHS. That's what I.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
I still have it. It's like I don't even have a VCR anymore, but I just have it just to be like, oh,
Yeah,
I did
we
that.
still have our my husband actually had them, the Evangelion VHSs, and we're just like, we're never getting rid of these.
Those things, and those things are gold because those
I
things are
know.
they're so damn expensive. It's not even fun. Yeah, no, you got to keep them. You got to keep them. That's hilarious. And was there like was there something in your life that just got you into cosplay itself cosplay itself?
Not really. Like I said, I always enjoyed just dressing up for events and like Halloween. I went to a Renaissance festival as a kid, and I was like, "We're dressing up. I'm gonna be a princess." All just it was just fun, and I think as I grew up a bit and went to a couple of conventions, I think a big part of it was the confidence that kind of came with it. Because
Mhm.
again, back in the day, nobody liked anime. Like
Yeah.
you were bullied and made fun of for even talking about this stuff. And for me, especially because I went to such a conservative evangelical Christian school, all those people thought I was like Satan's child. So like I was made fun of a lot. And then going to these conventions, even though I was in a poorly made costume, like we had no wig selections back then. Like it was not cute.
Come on,
But
to be fair though,
people,
everyone was in the same boat
yeah, everyone
during
was
that
kind of in
time.
the same boat. But like to go there, not knowing what to expect and having people automatically like you was just so life changing for me.
Mhm.
I didn't know people were going to ask for my photo, but like 2 seconds coming out of the car, walking into the convention center, someone's like, "Oh my God, can I get your photo?" And I was like, "Do I pose?" Like, I didn't even know what to do. But people were like, "Oh my God, you're so cool. I love that show." And we're immediately talking to you. And that was such a new experience for me, being a bit more of an outcast. So feeling like I was part of something was just so genuine and cool. And people thought you were cool, even though you're dressed up in this really poorly made outfit with cardboard and raw edges everywhere and like the spray hair dye which is falling off everywhere. Like it was bad, but
Hey.
everyone loved it and everybody wanted to talk to you and like be your friend. And that was just such a huge, I guess, coming out moment for me, learning that I felt so much more confident. And early on I would find these characters that I loved and wanted to embody, and they made me feel a lot more confident because I was channeling so much of their energy into myself, and I was able to really kind of come into myself a bit more that way, if that makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. It's actually kind of funny because like I mean, yeah, because like my first convention was in 99
Oh
and
wow.
yeah, so like I went to it was a convention called Acon. Actually,
Oh
you
yeah,
were a guest. Yeah,
I
you were a guest
was.
last year for it. Yeah. And I went there and I was like, wow, it's cool. But the one thing is actually it was actually kind of cool because my friend was the one that introduced me into anime. Like we sat down and he let me borrow his Evangelion tapes and stuff. And then I was like, this is all right, but it caught my interest. But he says that like when you go to he told me before we went to this event that once you find like the community, like especially the early community, of cosplay or of anime and cosplay during all of that, it's like you've met your people like
Yeah.
immediately, like you met your people because you like you said, everything was in the DL. You didn't know, most people didn't really acknowledge anime during that time, but now this person from God knows where loves the stuff that you did, and you can openly discuss or talk about or geek out or whatever
Yeah.
of like what of whatever you were into, and that's what it was most of the time. Like you have thousands, like hundreds of thousands of people that are interested in what you did, and you could just set yourself free for that 3-day weekend and then make some new friends and stuff like that. That's what I loved about it back in the day.
Yeah, it was definitely a freeing experience going
Hmm.
from like maybe the 3 people at my school who also like anime to suddenly I'm in a building with a few thousand people who like the same thing I do, and I'm not being judged for it.
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, it's not. I mean, now it's more acceptable, so it's not like you're kind of keeping your guard up 9 times out of 10. And like,
Yeah.
and like what you were saying about like San Diego. Surprisingly enough, San Diego in the early 2000s, it wasn't even that big relatively.
It's really Twilight that put that convention.
It
on the
really
map,
did,
and that's when it
yeah.
started selling out, which is so bizarre.
It is so weird. Yeah, I totally agree, Matt. It's really weird when whatever like decides to bring that hype up, it just skyrocketed and never looked back. Yeah. And do you remember what was your first cosplay? Like, do you remember the first
Yeah, it
official
was
cosplay?
Mimiru from Dot Hack Sign.
Oh, Mimi. Okay. Oh wow. Okay. I really wish there's photos. That's what I would love to see.
I think one, it's like a printed photo because what was digital photography back then?
Yeah. Right.
But it wasn't good. I mean, I say that now. I think at the time it was actually pretty solid. For what we had, but when I see like what I can do now, I was just like, wow, that's garbage.
Well, yeah, that's just not fair to even say.
I know, we're our worst critics.
Right. I mean, like you have like 20 years under your belt, and you've probably seen and done a lot of different kinds of things itself. But like, what would you say is the most time consuming aspect of making a cosplay? One of your cosplays?
Gosh, I think the thing that I tend to spend the most time on is the planning stage, which I feel like doesn't make any sense until I maybe start explaining it. So I actually like to dig really deep into the character and the world. And my thought process of when I make a costume is, how would this look in real life? So is there historical context to the costume? Like, is it a period costume? What makes sense for the character to wear in terms of like textiles or just like jewelry or footwear and all of that. So really doing all the research ahead of time. I'm a big planner. I'm like stupidly 8 type Virgo. I'm the kind of person who makes lists. So having everything ready to go before I actually start is probably the biggest time suck. And then it's probably just a little bit of procrastination. I find the part where you have all your materials and then the part where you actually start cutting out the pattern and like the pieces and doing the mock-up, there's like a mental stall there. I'm just like, once I start, it'll be easy. But starting it is so difficult because I just start getting in my head. I'm just like, oh no, what if this is wrong? And then I reevaluate everything and I feel like I'm going bananas. But yeah, it's everything that happens before the costume even starts.
Hey, you need to have some sort of level of organization. So I definitely love that you that you do, especially for the amount. Like, how many cosplays do you usually like? I mean, how many do you usually make for yourself? Like throughout a year?
That depends. I'd say I'm on a bit of a decline. Not in a bad way, but I think when I was a lot younger, I felt the pressure to pump out costumes and have new costumes for every convention that I went to. And conventions were significantly cheaper back then. So like I was going to like multiple conventions a year, like maybe 5, 6, 7, 10, I don't know. But I constantly felt the need to like one up myself. I was always learning new things. So I was like, oh, I don't want to wear that again. That was awful. So I'm going to make something new and something relevant and like do something with my friends. So like originally I would be pumping out like 20, 30 costumes a year, which is insane.
Wow, Jesus. 30?
Yeah. But like now I think I've I'm at the point in my life where I just like to create. So I
Mhm.
don't need to push myself to constantly make whatever's relevant or what's in the limelight to get the attention. I just want to do costumes that I really enjoy, characters I really enjoy, going back to like childhood type things and putting my own spin on things. So, like, I think last year I maybe made five, maybe six. And some of them were bigger and some of them were smaller. Some weren't even finished. Like Bridget, I made last year, but I didn't actually complete certain aspects of the costume until this year for a convention. So now I don't feel the pressure. Oh, that's the clock I told you that was going to chime.
That's
Uh,
hilarious.
now I don't feel that pressure to constantly be competing with other artists. I'm just okay with doing things at my own pace.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know if it was you who did this, but I think it was. Like, did you have a go kart for your for your Vanellope?
No, I did not. I've always wanted to, but again, techie things are just not my forte. So I'm sure if I like peer pressured some friends to kind of help me with like the go-kart base, I could figure it out.
Yeah,
But really, like, and this kind of comes with again like learning what I like in cosplay and kind of fine-tuning the things that I want to do. I hate working on props. I used to enjoy doing them, but as I got more involved with sewing, I really love just the sewing aspect of cosplay. So now if I need props or something that I'm just like, that's a little out of my wheelhouse, I'm not going to take the time to learn it. I'd rather be like, hey, best friend, here is some money. Please do the thing for me.
that
That
makes
way I can
sense. Yeah.
focus on the things I like. They can focus on the things they like to do. They also get money. And now I don't have the stress of having to worry about if it's going to be good or not. And it's just kind of a win win all around.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, money is good for is used for goods and services, so definitely understand that. But
Yeah, and there's just so much involved with cosplay that trying to
mhm.
juggle and be good at every single thing
It's
is
virtually
just not very
impossible.
feasible.
Yeah, it's virtually impossible to do. Like, I mean, I will say, like, I think, were you, I think who was in Naruto in last year? Haku? Was it?
Yeah, I did Haku.
Yeah, like I was noticing like the material that you made for your for your cosplay and like how it was stitched and stuff looked freaking on point, I will say.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
did
yeah.
a lot of research again on historical accuracy. So like those are full like Hakama pants, just like, and they're made as close as I physically could to standard Hakama pants.
Yeah.
Like there's just a lot that really went into it.
It just seems like you kind of balanced you switched from like quantity to quality, and then now since you're more kind of taking more time with the cosplays, it's with your cosplays itself, it's definitely showing how freaking like amazing. Like, I mean, I know I'm not saying you weren't amazing back in the day, but but
I
like
mean, there's
how
always room
amazing
for
it was,
improvement. Like I can look at old costumes and critique them to hell and back. So,
uh-huh.
I mean, I
But
can look at new costumes and do the same thing. There's always room for improvement. But I think especially now too that sewing is actually my primary job, not necessarily cosplay related things, but just in general. That now when I sew for myself, I want to make sure I'm having fun doing it. So again, being a bit more picky on the things that I really want to spend my time and money and effort on when I'm struggling on my day-to-day job, just like crying at my sewing machine. I don't want that same experience to happen with costumes I'm supposed to be doing for fun.
Yeah, that makes sense. That definitely makes a lot of sense. And do you have do you still have like a dream cosplay that you're wanting to make, but you haven't quite made it yet?
Um, I wouldn't say I have a dream costume I want to make. I kind of made a list of things that I'd like to like do
Hmm.
for like the year and like upcoming, but I wouldn't say they were like dreams or just something I've had on my mind for a while. I think
Well, how about
honestly,
like there's something that's like it's been there, but you just have it either time or time, money,
the thing
and
that I
stuff.
really want to do, I like doing like more sort of dream shoots. So like having like a whole like photo shoot for it, like on location or in a really cool studio and things like that. So my thing would be, because I love Evangelion. Evangelion is my life's passion. I would love one of the Andromeda latex ones that they make, but they're very expensive. And like doing a full shoot of that would be amazing for Asuka, or honestly, any character is fine, but Asuka's my girl.
Ooh, full latex. Oh,
Yeah.
sounds. Oh boy.
Yeah, they're so beautiful though. I know a few people who have them and they're just absolutely gorgeous. So I'd love to do that. Well, another shoot that I'd really love to do, it's my favorite game, is Majora's Mask. And I just suckered in a friend who would do it with me, and I'm so excited. I've always wanted to do Anju and Cafe from the game. I don't know how familiar you are with Majora's Mask.
I am definitely
Okay.
am familiar.
But yeah, the Lover's Mask and like their whole side quest is just so depressing and beautiful, and there's so many emotions there. And so we're gonna finally do Anju and Cafe together, and I'm very excited for that. So I really want to do like this whole shoot of like missing each other in like a little town. I think it'll be really cool.
That would be pretty cool. Well, I'm pretty sure Vegas, I'm pretty sure there's places in Vegas that you probably that would compensate that would look perfect for that kind of.
Maybe. I'm really not
scenario.
opposed to like traveling though, because my Anju is in California, so we might go out there. It's still in the very early stages, but I'm pretty excited to work with it.
That is so cool. And yeah, I if you do, yeah, you definitely need to do that. Is that a plug suit that you were talking about for Ava? What
Yeah,
they're
yeah, one of the plug suits.
Oh, you
I
gotta
take
definitely.
any of them.
You gotta definitely do. At
One
least
day. Like I said, they're expensive. They're like
the material is
grand or
expensive.
two. Yeah, the people who make them very expensive, but they seem like they're really good quality. So the things I would do for Evangelion, so it's fine.
At least you can say like once you eventually be like, yeah, I'm willing to spend this kind of cash for it. Then yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's just you got to plan for it.
Very much so. Very much so. And what do you like in your process of like throughout your process, like what do you do or what do you see when you decide to cosplay like a specific character?
It kind of just depends. Sometimes it's just like the look of the character, like visually the outfit's just like stunning, or I have a vision of how I would like to make that. Sometimes it has to do with like just the character that I resonate with a lot. It's usually one of those two things, but occasionally it'll be like, hey, we need somebody to fill in this spot. And I'm like, okay, you're friends. I'm fine doing that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of them like I have to say, like the Bakugo that you did recently, I was like, how the hell did you do that?
Which version?
Okay, the one where not the one with the it was the shirtless one. The one with
the fantasy one.
Yeah, the fantasy one. I'm like, how did you even get like? I mean, that was insane. Like on how
that
like with
costume
the deal
was actually insane. I'm sure a lot of people would question some of my choices, but I really wanted to be as authentic as possible with that. So thinking like fantasy, barbarian, looking at what they would have access to in terms of like fabrics, materials, and there's just like a lot of little details on that. So I actually have a lot of ethically sourced dead animals on it.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So like the turtle shell on my arm is a real turtle shell. All the leather pieces are genuine leather, and I learned how to leather work for that costume. All of like the beads on the necklace and everything, those are all real gems, stones, rocks, corals, things like that. Yeah, there's a lot to that costume. And then all the fur, it's not real fur. I didn't do real fur for it. But I actually made my own fur for that costume. It's through a method called the yarn method. So you have to weave in chunks of yarn and then brush it all out and like straighten it. And then I dyed part of it. So it's actually just yarn,
Oh my
but it was very
god.
time consuming.
That looks really good. I mean, like that was pretty.
Thank
Oh
you.
yeah, that was like holy crap. I was not expecting that. And do you do the wig yourself too, or do you have?
Yeah, I did the wig myself. Everything on that costume was made by me, including the pants and like the skin top was airbrushed.
You did the
Yeah, it was a
airbrush
lot of
too?
work. So I couldn't do the airbrush. I had a friend do the airbrush because I had to be wearing it
Yeah.
while they did the airbrushing, so we can actually match up anatomy properly with like the muscles and everything. So I didn't technically airbrush it, but I made it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got best master craftsmanship for that costume. I actually entered it with a group at a Vegas convention, and we won that. I made the Deku costume as well that went with us.
Oh wow! Like it's like the Deku with the mask, or the Deku like with the when you went full on vigilante, or
No, it was the matching fantasy one. It was all the fantasy costumes.
ah, okay. I don't see. I'm not familiar with the fantasy side of this stuff because I'm really behind when it comes to My
What's
Hero.
funny is that those outfits, when we did them, were just the rankings, the popularity rankings that they have every like year or two in the manga, and it was literally just a visual image of them, and that was it. That's all we had to work with making those costumes.
Oh wow!
Was
So like,
one image. It doesn't show the back, it doesn't show a bunch of the side angles, it was just the one. And then right as we finished the costumes for the convention, they came out with the closing of one of the seasons, which was based on those fantasy outfits. And we're like, are you kidding me?
then all the hard work is like, okay, now it's like,
know,
okay, here you
we
go.
get to see the whole outfit now in so many angles and in proper coloring. Oh my god.
It's like
We were
that's
mad.
just a cruel joke. That's just what that
It really
is.
was. It was like, okay, thanks for that.
My goodness, yeah. I mean, but that's amazing. I mean, I was just like, wow, that is crazy. And because like I've noticed, like because you do a little bit of everything. I think the only thing I really haven't seen you do is like comics per se, like DC, Marvel, or anything. Which is fine.
I've done a bunch of comics.
You really? Which ones have you
it was
done?
just a while back. I haven't done them in a long time, but I love Batman series, so I've done a couple of the Robins before. I've done Jubilee from X-Men. I've done a couple of versions of Thor. I've done Kid Loki. I've done Leah from Journey into Mysteries.
Oh, nice.
I was almost done with Wiccan from Young Avengers, and then I never finished it, and I don't know what happened to that.
Just lost interest, maybe.
I don't even know where it is after like moving and everything. I was just like, well, it's gone forever. I don't know.
Let's move on. Oh, okay. Well, my mistake. Okay.
Yeah, I've done a wide assortment of everything. I mean, you kind of have to over 20 years, right? You kind of just explore different mediums.
That is true. That's a good point. That's very true. And what are your personal fandoms? Like what are you usually into? Yeah, because I mean obviously anime, but like what else are you kind of into?
Gosh, that's hard to say. I feel like I fall in and out of fandoms a lot because I feel like what happens, especially in anime, is things just get rehashed for the new generation.
Yes.
So I feel like I'll watch a new series that everyone is hyped up, and I'm just like, this is exactly like so and so, and I'm not interested because it's just a rehash thing.
Do you know what's funny? Like that's exactly kind of how I felt with My Hero, because like when My Hero started was kind of like the closing of Shippuden. The only difference the only difference I felt like I was like, oh, instead of ninjas, they're superheroes, and they're going to a superhero school instead of a ninja school and stuff like that.
I fell off the bandwagon for My Hero about 2 years ago, maybe. Like I don't think it's a bad series, but I hate God mod type characters.
Yes, I definitely.
And once we start getting there, I just lose interest because I tend to like the secondary characters a lot who like work their ass off on something but still only end up second place, which is
Just to
garbage.
get that piece of the pie, just to get the
Yeah, because
crumbles
they're
and the
not the
crumbs.
main character. They can't be number one, even though in a real world setting, this person who's constantly trying and working and put their entire being into it. I call it the Vegeta complex.
Yes,
Like,
I was thinking that too.
I love Vegeta so much, and
Yes.
Goku I just want to slap in the face.
It's like you're clearly a stupid person.
Yeah,
Goku,
it's just like, oh well, you know, I have naturally high ability, and I'm just like, oh my god, but like you don't think about anything. Like you're so stupid. Like I hate this.
You're the world's
hate
worst
this.
father. Yeah.
Ah.
Well, about like the thing that kind of gets me recently was like there is a ton of isekai series, kind of like what sort, like you remember how Dot Hack was like, oh wow, this is pretty cool, getting trapped inside the game world. This was done in 2003. Now just multiply that by like 50, and there's always like, oh, I was reincarnated as a sword, I was reincarnated as a soda machine in a different world and stuff. Like it's like, what is going on?
Yeah, people are like, oh my god, sword art's so good. I'm just like, have you seen Dot Hack? Like, please don't talk to me about sword art.
Yes.
It's garbage.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, but not necessarily just anime, though. I mean, were you like, I was gonna say Sailor Moon, but I guess that's anime. But like,
yeah, that would be anime.
But yeah,
like, I like
Star Wars, Star
video
Trek
games.
Mm-hmm.
I like video games, but I don't play a lot of video games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm very much a Zelda person. I play every Zelda game known to man. I love Animal Crossing. I like Pokemon a lot. I just finished up Violet, which I really enjoyed. I like easy games. I like games that don't really stress me out because I have enough of that being in my 30s as a millennial with life struggles. Like, I don't need the excess stress.
That is fair. Like, do you have a favorite type of Pokemon? Like, what's
well, Oddish is my ride or die.
Oddish, wow. Okay.
Yeah. He's been
You were
my
the first
favorite
one
ever since I was a little kid. I don't know, there's just something about grass type Pokemon that don't have arms just win for me. Like Smoliv, the new one in the new game. Oh my god, I love Smoliv. Like, you throw at me any grass type that doesn't have arms, it's my favorite. I love it.
And that's the only criteria. It has to be grass. Well, two criteria. It has to be grass, and it does not have arms.
I mean, when you start looking at all my favorites, that's essentially how they all are. They're just so cute. I love them so much. They just make me so happy. There was a time where if a game didn't have an Oddish, I wouldn't play it because I had to have Oddish on my team. In fact, Violet was the first one that I ever made an exception for because I really wanted to try the open world because I love open world concepts. But it still hurt my soul. I was like, I don't have an Oddish.
Did you ever do you leave it as an Oddish or do you ever evolve it? You even leave it as an Oddish?
Yeah, and then I will wreck people with like a level 100 Oddish. My husband, way back when, he would make fun of me because I loved Oddish so much, and like I had like a team of them and it just destroyed him because like I had ones that were like specifically all the powders and would ruin you, either put you to sleep or paralyze you or poison you so you're dying somehow there or you can't move. And then I'd come in with other ones that had like a really high specialty and just like razor leaf or solar beam you to death. He'd be like, I can't do anything, I'm asleep. And I'm like, sucks for you.
You had an Oddish gang. That is insane.
Yeah. If Pokemon were real, I'd have like 500 Oddish just like following me around at all times. Like, that is what I want.
You would kind of look like what's his name, that character, Pikmin with the
yeah, that's fair. That is absolutely fair.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. So is there any the characters that you've done, like movies, comics, anime, games, and more, like, do you have a genre that you naturally like to gravitate towards?
No, not really. I'm the type of person to give anything a shot, but I'm really picky. So like I have a degree in English and creative writing. So for me, I've studied what makes things good, like character development versus just like plot moving along and things like that. So anything that really engages me in terms of like this seems like a really real character who's thought out, and these choices are not simply because we need to move a plot along or like stupid things like that you see a lot of the times. Something that's just a bit more interesting, a bit more like human thought out, which is again one of the reasons why I really love Evangelion. Like those are such fleshed out real human characters.
You cannot tell me that you did not like that you just couldn't help but want to punch Shinji.
I mean, no.
Really?
Like I think you need to watch Evangelion at different stages of your life.
Okay.
Because the entire point of the series is Shinji finding happiness and learning to love himself. So once you go in with that knowledge, like it's not about cool robot fights. Like that's not the series. If you're watching it for cool robot fights, go watch Gundam. Like the entire series is literally about existentialism. Like that is the point of the series. So if you're going in with that mindset, you shouldn't want to just punch Shinji. You can be upset at his choices, but his choices are absolutely realistic for a 14-year-old put in those situations. A 14-year-old who has depression, who all he wants is to be loved by his family, finds out that his family only brought him there to do something horrifying and put that much pressure on him all of a sudden. Like that is a lot as a kid. Like so much. Like I think a lot of people get mad at Shinji because they view him as the typical shonen type character who's like, I'm going to be a hero, not realizing that there are real consequences to your actions.
I wouldn't really consider to say Shinji is like the typical shonen, because he really, if anything, because like he came in as a normal dude, a normal person that came into what was it, Nerve? It was Nerve, right? Yeah, into Nerve without like knowing what the hell was going on. All he knew was that his dad was the leader towards it.
This situation where like.
However, though, I mean, just the decisions that he made, some of them were like, especially when he was with Asuka, is just kind of was like, it was just like, why are you doing some of this stuff though? Like
because he's really messed up as a kid.
He was messed up, yes.
Like it's already like the end of the world. Like he doesn't have a mom. He grew up without his dad, and all he wants to do is feel like people give a shit about him. And that's why he decides to pilot the Avas, because he's like, well, people will like me if I do this. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. You need to learn to like yourself, and then other people will start liking you. You have to find the joy in the things that you do. Like, yes, a lot of his choices are bad, but he is 14 years old, coming with 14 years of huge amounts of trauma. He sees people die all the time. The entire world will be destroyed if he doesn't do certain things. And that's an insane amount of pressure. Like you have these Gundam series where, again, like I think it's Wing, where all the characters are also 14 years old. And they're just like, la-di-da, I'm going to pilot a Gundam and be cool. And it's like, realistically, no one is doing that. You can say that you'll pilot the exact same thing in a heartbeat, but realistically, if you're like, well, if you fail, like everybody dies, everyone you love dies, and it's all going to be your fault if you survive and be the only person left. Like, that's insane. Like, you have no idea what you would do in those kind of real world decisions. Like, that is so much. And for, again, a 14-year-old who's a literal child coming into those scenarios, you don't have the capacity to deal with those things. That's just impossible. So yeah, well, he makes a lot of bad decisions because as a 14-year-old, he's an idiot. He's a child. It's coming from a lot of trauma and abuse. So yeah, he's making bad decisions. But I don't think anybody else in a realistic situation would do much better.
Yes. To be fair though, I haven't watched Ava in like over, and I haven't even watched 2.0 or 3.3 or the newer ones
Oh,
either. Yeah. Are they better? Like, do they?
look,
Does
we
it
can
make?
turn this into an entire Evangelion discussion if you want, because I will go there so fast.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Dang. But yeah, it's been literally decades for me to watch the original, and I've never watched any of the newer movies or the mini series and stuff.
Okay, here's your homework assignment. Go read the manga. Read the manga first, the full manga, and then watch the original series, and then the end of Evangelion, and then watch the new Rebuild movies, because everything is a time loop, because it's all about Shinji finding happiness and existentialism. So everything keeps re-looping until he can find that happiness.
Okay, I'll definitely put it's on. It's definitely I'm putting it on the list right now. So just to see, I would need to have someone to watch it with me on this, because like I know the original series was a little bit drab, but for my taste for the most part. But I definitely will. But I am definitely going to try to watch the newer versions. So everyone's been telling me I should watch the newer versions.
Start messaging me some questions, and I will send you the things.
Okay, will do. And what's it called? You know what? I guess we can do one more. Skip one more here. I just lost my place.
Oh, no.
There we go. I got too far in with Ava. I'm like, okay, there you go.
That's what always happens when you talk to me. It's my master plan.
There you go. You figured it out. You knew what you were going to do over this podcast the whole time. As well as amongst like other cosplayers during the pandemic itself. I mean, you couldn't attend events as much as usual during that time. But during that time itself, did you discover anything like new that you improved that improved your craft, the craft?
So the pandemic was really hard for me in a very different way than most everybody else. I don't mind like not going out. I hate people. If I can stay home all the time, I will. That's not so being like, you have to stay inside for like months, and I'll be like, nice, I love that. So that wasn't a big deal, but at the very, very beginning of the pandemic, I'm talking like March, April, our dog got really sick, and he was our first dog together. He was 8 years old, so he wasn't old by any means, and he ended up passing in June, and that destroyed me. Like, absolutely destroyed me as a human being. We had another dog. His name's Victor. We still have him now. But I was actually afraid of dogs growing up. I was attacked by a dog when I was a kid. So it was a very big deal for us to get a dog, and I was very like hesitant. But
was it a small dog, or was
he was medium? He was a Hungarian Puli. They're the ones who kind of looks like they have dreadlocks.
Oh yeah. I know you're talking
So he was about 30, 35 pounds, pretty medium sized. But I fell in love with this dog immediately. As soon as he came into my arms, I was like, I will die for this dog. Like, I don't know what it was, but like he was attacked by a pit bull once, and I like threw myself in front of this pit bull, and I got way more injured than he did.
Oh my God.
Like I would literally do anything for him. And so watching him decline, and then like just not being able to properly mourn him with anybody. And everybody was getting dogs at the beginning of the pandemic too, because everyone was home. So watching Victor, our other dog, wonder where his older brother was just really hard. I wasn't motivated to do anything for a while. I'm
sorry to hear that.
And so there was Crunchyroll convention was going to do an online convention that year, and they were doing an online masquerade. And I was like, I've been sitting here not doing anything for like a month. Like, I am in such a bad place. I just need to force myself to do something, because I was literally like, that was when Animal Crossing came out, was during this time.
Mm-hmm.
All I would do every day was wake up, eat like the saddest breakfast known to man, and play Animal Crossing on the couch and not leave the couch until I went to bed. Like, I didn't know what to do with myself. It was the worst feeling of my entire life. And I was like, even my husband was like getting concerned. Like, he was obviously mourning as well and not in a good place. But like, he was like, you need to move every once in a while.
Right.
And so I was like, all right, I will try to. Oh, it's noon. Sorry. There's going to be 12 dings. Pause the story.
Okay. That's right.
So there was a contest, and there was like a preliminary type stage. So you do some work up front for the contest, and then they choose who's going to be in it based off of all of that you've done so far. And you kind of pitch your skit and idea to them. And then they choose like 30 or so people who will make it into the show. I think it was in August or September of that year. And so I was like, okay, I will do a costume that I have been wanting to work on for a really long time. It was Bon Clay from One Piece.
Bon Clay from One Piece. It's okay. I know you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Two. He's the ballerina with the swans.
Yes.
The absolute goat of the series. No questions.
That's your favorite character of them all? That's cool. He is cool.
He's necessarily my favorite, but he's up there for sure. I adore everything about Bon Clay. But his appearance is very comical, especially considered the role he plays in the series. He has some insane things that he does, and it's just beautiful.
Extra. Yeah, very extra.
And so I wanted to convey him in a way that was beautiful, just like the acts that he does in the show, and less comical than he appears. So I began researching like ballet tutus instead of like the weird ball shorts that he wears. And I actually spent a butt ton of money on a replica pattern for the bell tutus that the ballet dancers at the Mariinsky Theater wear. And the Mariinsky Theater, if you've never heard of it,
I have.
Okay. Ballet theater in Russia essentially is the starting point of all modern day ballet. That's where Swan Lake first appeared. Everything by Tchaikovsky essentially was done for that theater, premiered at that theater. Like, it just insane. So they do their bell tutus a very specific way, and I paid a lot of money for a pattern for that. And I constructed the entire tutu and bodice and everything based off of how they make things there, which was all insanely technical. Like,
this is the first time that you've ever done that? Like, when you were when you were going through that process?
I've never made a tutu. Like, I've worked with tulle and made petticoats, but a tutu, like one that is made for the stage, essentially, to be properly made. So like, if someone who actually knows ballet wore it, they could perform just as usual. Like, that's how technically correct this costume is.
Oh my God.
And I ended up making it through the preliminaries into the final round of the contest. And I ended up winning 2 awards for it, which is crazy because usually how masquerades work, you don't usually award someone 2 awards. That's not the typical norm. So the fact that I won 2 was just insanely rewarding, and it taught me that things do get better, even though things are really, really hard. And I still cry all the time about him because he's still my precious baby.
I mean, it's your first dog. I definitely understand.
Yeah, there's nothing in this world that can replace the hole in my heart from him. But through that love and passion I had for him, I was able to create something as equally as beautiful and take my time and make something that meant the world to me. So through tragedy and loss, there can be beautiful things. And I think that was the first costume where I really like took a step back and was like, I just want to do the things I love now. Like that was really the turning point for me to say, I don't need to make a million costumes anymore. I just want to focus on the things that I really love and that I want to do, and put like my own personality and my heart into my costuming again, because I feel like a bit of that has been lost doing it professionally over the years, and it just doesn't seem fun.
Right.
So that I think that whole process really didn't technically, I guess, teach me a specific sewing or crafting skill, but it taught me a really good life lesson that has kind of stuck with me since then.
Yeah. Well, I would beg to differ. I mean, it just seemed it changed your aspect of how you did things completely. I mean,
I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, you know, I practice crocheting and I've never crocheted. So that was my hobby during the pandemic. And I had a complete like life depressive turnaround.
Jeez. Like, I mean,
it's just a little different.
Yeah, I mean, just a little different, but I mean, I think that constitutes as a big change. I mean, like a real, I mean, especially the full realization, especially all the everything you went throughout that whole process. I mean, especially the beginning of the pandemic. The beginning of the pandemic, it was really rough because we had no idea what was going on. We for months, like, you know, and like even the out that CRX did give you, you know, I mean, it still was like a small blip of the bigger picture, you know. So like, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think that, no, I mean, you definitely came out stronger from when you came out initially from it.
Yeah, I did.
And,
I feel like I'm one of the few people who kind of rose to the challenge of like, I'm going to better myself during this point. Because I know a lot of people it didn't, and I'm not like blaming them. Like, that's absolutely understandable that it impacted you very harshly. But I feel lucky in the fact that I was able to really do that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I even since then have grown as a person a lot more. And I feel a lot more confident about who I am today versus like back in 2019.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. That's great. That's awesome to hear. Oh man, but Steff, I mean, I don't know. I could talk to you all day, but we got. I
unfortunately don't have all day.
I know we don't. But the one last thing, like, if where can folks like what's the best way folks can see you or like, you know, just follow you and see what conventions and stuff you're going to go to or anything?
So pretty much everything is Steff Von Schweetz except for Twitter. Schweetz was too long for Twitter, so it's Steff Von Tweets on there. But I have Instagram, I have TikTok, I have Facebook, I have Twitter, the basics. I have a coffee as well if you're feeling charitable. But if you really want to see like rundowns, especially of the more recent costumes, I actually do video logs of how I make all the pieces of my costumes. Up on my TikTok. So if you're ever interested in learning how to sew or how progress is going, that would be the place to go.
Perfect. Well, Steff, thank you so much. It was fun geeking out with you today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh yes, no problem, anytime. And guys, if you loved this interview, like with Steff Von Schweetz, and you could definitely check her out as among all the other different awesome interviews that we've done in the past on our website, confreaksandgeeks.com, or you can go to any podcast services. We're on Apple, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, what have you, everywhere. You can go check us out on any podcast services out there too. So once again, this is Davis signing out. Y'all take it easy.